I'm going to do a video, but I just had the most crazy experience ever today, and it's something that I can't sum up in just typing, so I decided to do a video. Let me give you a little background. My youngest daughters attend ballet at a community center, and this morning my husband he took them to ballet, and we had received a text from the ballet instructor. So let me find the text and I can read you, because I want to make sure I tell you everything exactly what happened. So okay, so this morning she sent us this text that said, "Parents, tuition is due today before class begins. There will be a person collecting money at the door. No student will be allowed to participate until payment is received. Also, there is a $5 late fee if payment is not paid by Monday. Thank you, parents." So I took that to mean she wasn't going to let our kids in today if payment wasn't received for September, even though I've already paid for August, and today's the last day of August. So I wrote her back and said, if folks have paid for this month, I don't think it's fair not to let the kids in. That should happen next week if they haven't paid. So I left my cell phone at home and I went to go pick my kids up. I had the money to pay for September. I went to her assistant that was collecting the money, and I gave her the money, and I said, well, do you have change? And I was telling her which kids I was paying for. So her class had already started. She saw me and came over to me and said, did you send me a text message? And I said, yes, I sent you a text message. And she said, well, that's none of your business. And I said, excuse me? That is my business, because my kids go here and it's my money. It is my business. She said, well, it's none of your business because you don't really understand what's going on. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not going to argue with her because there's kids there, whatever. I'm just going to pay, and then we can discuss it later. So I'm waiting for the lady to give me my change, and she comes back over to me, and she's like, and another thing, I'm running a business. You don't understand what's going on. I have parents paying me late and this and this and that. I said, well, that's not my problem because I've never paid you late. I've never not paid you. I said, and as a matter of fact, you still owe us for a day in December when the center was closed. And she said, well, I had that makeup day and your kids weren't able to attend. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so then she got loud with me and I got loud with her. And then she said, I can't believe you're getting loud with me. You need to leave. I said, you know what? You're right. I'm taking my kids out of your class. I'm leaving. So I'm walking out of the door and she's still just yapping. And so, of course, I'm responding back to her. And then she says, we need to call security. We need to call security. And I said, fine, call security, because they will see that you're the one acting irrational and crazy. So I'm walking towards the desk to the front of the center, and she's behind me still yapping, and then she passes me and she goes up to them and she says, I want you to call the cops on this woman. Call the cops. So she picks up the phone and she calls the cops, and I think it kind of clicked to her that, okay, I'm calling the cops for no reason, and she hung it up, but it had already dialed. So they called back, and I told the lady, I said, yeah, I want them to come up here because I want to show that she's filing a false police report. So I'm talking on the phone to the police dispatcher and giving her my name and telling her what's going on. She comes back over to the desk. Now, mind you, while all this is going on, her class is still going on. She comes back to the desk and says, yeah, I don't understand what's wrong with you, because you're bizarre and you're crazy. You're just really crazy in the head. I said, I'm crazy in the head? Something is wrong with you. And she said, well, I should have never let your girls come in the first place. I always knew that there was something about you. I said, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you always knew there's something about you? I've never not paid you. I've always paid you on time. What exactly are you talking about? And she said, well, something is wrong with you. And so I'm talking to the dispatcher, and I said, listen, she keeps coming over here and talking to me, and I'm trying to keep my cool, but I can't deal with her right now. I'm trying to talk to you. So the police dispatcher said, tell her to stop talking to you and to go to her class. And so I said, Anna, go to your class. The police dispatcher is telling me to tell you to go to your class. Why are you still talking to me? You have nothing else to say to me. Go to your class. So she goes to her class. And so I'm upset now. I'm crying because when I get mad, I start crying. I'm just like really emotional. And then she comes back again. And then she's talking at the lady's desk. Something is wrong with that woman. I have the text messages. And I said, you know what? Please show them the text messages. Please show them. And then she walked away again. And then at this point in time, the people at the center are even thinking, okay, this woman is a little bit unstable because she keeps coming back over here. And I said, you see this, right? I'm over here waiting and she keeps coming back over here. So I'm talking and I'm, waiting. So in the meantime, another parent comes up to me and she says, ma'am, I just want to let you know that I witnessed everything. I was bringing my daughter here for the first time today, but after the way she treated you and after what she said about you, I can't. My daughter will not be coming back. So I guess apparently when I was on the phone with the dispatcher, she made a speech to the parents and berated me and talked about how I didn't want to pay and all this crazy stuff, just straight up lied. So I'm waiting. My daughter is crying because she's like, Mom, I can't believe she said that about you. I can't believe she treated you like that. And I'm like, you know what, baby? You just have to pray for people and we just have to trust God to work this out. So I just started praying. I started humming some hymns. I was doing everything. And then she just kept walking back and forth. She would walk past, say something to the ladies at the counter and walk back. And she was just trying to antagonize me. And I'm not the one who automatically thinks that everything is racial. But the way she was making it seem, I think she was trying to paint me as the angry black woman and hoping that I would snap or do something crazy or whatever. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. So finally the class is over. I'm upset because parents are walking past me, some of them, and looking at me kind of like, oh, there's that woman or whatever. So then the ladies at the desk tell me, the police are here and our manager's here. You can go talk to them. So I go outside and she's telling her side of the story and I'm keeping my distance from her. And I walk up to the police officer and he asks, what's my name? How do you pronounce my name? And I tell him, I shake his hand. He says, did you threaten her or put your hands on her? I said, excuse me? I said nothing to this woman. She came to me. So we went into like a little office and I explained to him what happened. And she says this is an issue over money. I said, this has absolutely nothing to do with money. I showed him the cash. I said, there's the cash right there. I was more than willing to pay. This has everything to do with the fact that I sent her a text message. And instead of her waiting until after class or waiting until the kids aren't around to talk to me like an adult, she decided to talk down to me. And she thought that I was just going to sit there and take it. And then once she realized that I wasn't, she wanted to call you guys in. I said, let me ask you something. She said that she always felt some kind of way about me and how she should have never let my girls come. I said, but I also have text messages where she begged my daughters to return this month because they weren't supposed to go back until September because I was going to go home to visit my grandmother who had, just had 2 strokes. And she texted me last week, which I still have on my phone, the text message where she said, can they please come back early, just pay for these 2 weekends and everything like that or whatever. So if you felt some kind of way about me or you thought I was crazy or whatever, why would you text me to bring my kids back? What's going on? And then on top of that, she has all these different rules. You can't pay with this type of check, only checks from this bank and that bank and all this other stuff. And I've done all of it just because my kids enjoyed the class and everything and stuff. But after today, I was done. So when it was all said and done, the police were upset because they got called for nothing. I'm like, well, you need to look at her because she's the one who called. And so they left, and then the woman who was over the center, she said she was going to call the parent because the one parent who came and spoke to me before she had left, and then she was going to talk to her workers who had saw, her coming back and forth and talking to me. And here's the kicker. The lady had the nerve to say to her, well, she was right about the whole payment thing and about the whole class schedule thing. And I'm like, duh, really? And then the lady says to me, well, I think she probably feels now that she may be overreacted. I said, there's no maybe about it. She totally overreacted. She thought that she was going to